back. We were just listening to Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov holding a press conference after speaking with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Geneva. We can bring in our chief foreign editor, Rob Parsons. Rob, we heard a long press conference there. Sergei Lavrov saying they pose no threat to Ukraine. He said also he hopes cooler emotions will prevail. And above all, that dialogue would continue with the United States, and he expects a response from Washington, a written response next week on Moscow's security demands. Does it sound like anything was concretely accomplished today?
It doesn't sound like very much was achieved, although Sergey Lavrov did describe the meeting as being useful and constructive, typical diplomatic speak. But he wasn't in belligerent mood. That much I think we can take away from that. And the fact that it appears that Antony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, has agreed that there will be a written response, at least seen from the Russian perspective, is a step forward. It's something that Sergey Lavrov has been repeating almost endlessly over the last couple of weeks. Antony Blinken appears ready to do that now. The response almost certainly will be no different from what the Americans and other NATO members have been saying publicly, namely that it's out of the question.
Yeah, we saw wires coming in from Bulgaria and Romania saying that they already rejected NATO withdrawal.
Exactly. Antony Blinken is going to say that. He's going to write it. It'll be there down in black and white for Sergei Lavrov to read. He knows what the Americans are going to do. The position is not going to change just because it's in writing rather than committed verbally to him in a meeting. There will be no backing away from the open door policy for countries wishing to join NATO. It doesn't mean that it's about to happen any day soon. The notion that, for instance, Ukraine is going to join NATO within the next few years is completely out of the question. Similarly with Georgia as well, although Georgia is on track to become a member of NATO, the door is open. It's not going to happen. Everybody understands that for some considerable time. But the Russians want it in black and white, what the American position is on that. And they also want a commitment on, as you just mentioned, Bulgaria and Romania, countries that joined NATO from after 1997, for NATO to row back on that and not to commit troops or carry out exercises on the territories of those countries. It's not going to happen, but it appears, we haven't heard Antony Blinken speak yet, but it appears that the Americans are prepared to put that down in black and white for him to read. What happens next, I suppose, is the big question. He gets the statement from the Americans that things are not going to change in that respect. What do the Russians do next? And on that, we are no further forward than we were 1 hour ago.
Yeah, Washington calling those points non-starters. Sergei Lavrov saying in the opening statement he expected no breakthrough today. Does it feel like to you we are headed to invasion or to a war?
Well, it's a difficult call to make, I think, of this one. Well, on the one hand, we have Sergei Lavrov, and not just Sergei Lavrov, others too in the Russian administration. The spokesperson for the Kremlin, Peskov, just a few days ago, umpteen senior members of the Russian administration saying we are not going to invade Ukraine. This is just propaganda being put out by the United States, by NATO and the European Union and others. But it's not going to happen. The question that has not been answered by the Russians is why, therefore, build up such colossal force on the border with Ukraine? Over 100,000 troops and heavy equipment, naval build-up in the seas around, aircraft move closer, and maintain that force for such a long time. We're already talking about several weeks. If the purpose is not some sort of military incursion. We don't have a satisfactory answer from the Russians at this point. They keep responding that, look, this is all happening on the territory of Russia. We're entitled to do whatever we like on the territory of Russia. But people have memories. They know what happened in 2008, for instance, when the Russians carried out over a period of several weeks in the North Caucasus exercises on the border with Georgia. That was followed in August 2008 with an invasion of Georgia, despite the fact that in the previous weeks the Russians said, of course, that this is not intended to threaten Georgia. But it happened. So memories are long, and people are understandably concerned that behind all this manoeuvring is a real threat, that it's not just there to wave a fist and hope that the Ukrainians and the West will cave on the demands. The the assumption has to be made that the Russians are serious and that this is a threat, a real serious physical threat to Ukraine. What form that threat will take, we can only guess at this stage. Will it be an advance deep into Ukraine, perhaps as far as the capital, Kiev? Will it be just an attempt to slice off part of the southeast of the country? Not clear at this stage.
Rob, you mentioned at the top there the buildup on the Ukrainian border, more than 100,000 Russian troops there. What is the latest on that buildup there?
Well, as far as we know, the buildup continues. There have been umpteen efforts through NATO, through the United States, through the European Union, through United Kingdom and others, to de-escalate. But the Russians have made it absolutely clear that at this stage they're not prepared to de-escalate. At the most conservative estimate, there are around about 100,000 troops on the border with Ukraine, many of them on the northeastern Ukrainian border, which puts them within pretty close striking distance of the Ukrainian capital, Kiev. But as I was saying before, we do not know at this stage what the military plan of Russia is. Does it intend to strike for Kiev, overthrow the Ukrainian government, or is it perhaps thinking of something less? Or, as Sergey Lavrov is saying, they have no intention whatsoever of attacking. At this stage, we're just guessing. But the build-up is very real. The build-up is absolutely real, and as I was saying, there's a heavy concentration of forces. First in the northeast, putting them close to the Ukrainian capital, but also in the southeast as well, around Donetsk and Luhansk, the Donbass area, and near Crimea. And the possibility might be to take control of that area in the southeast of Ukraine, give the Russians land access to Crimea, make sure that they can supply Crimea in the future, and ensure that it becomes absolutely impossible for Crimea ever to go back to Ukraine.
All right, Rob. Thank you very much, Rob Parsons, France Report's foreign editor. We're